Welcome to Pipeline Profits, where we dig deep into everything sales and marketing, specifically in the real estate industry. I am Ryan Wykes, introducing my co-host, Emma Pace. We are both obsessed with all things sales and marketing and have an awesome guest for you guys today. Without further ado,
guys, I can't even begin to explain how stoked I am for this guest today. I'm gonna outline some of the accolades and just amazing things that this dude has done. But before I even get into that, I really just want to stress how generous this guy is. This is a dude that I reached out to, I want to say like maybe 3 years ago, and asked him if I could make my way into his office when he had no idea who the heck I was, what I was about, what I did. And he opened me with with open arms. I remember showing up to his office. I have to tell this story. They always say, people will remember how you make them feel, not necessarily what you said to them. And I remember what this gentleman, I almost dropped his name there, what this gentleman said to me. But the thing that I will never forget is walking into his office, and there was a sign there that said, "Welcome, Emma." And he made me leave with a gift. And it was such an incredible experience that you can barely see it behind me, but I actually have a TV behind me, and it inspired me so much that when I do virtual buyer consultations, I will always put welcome and then the person's name. And it started because of this dude right here. So this man is a true Torontonian, over 26 years of experience in the sales and service industry. He is the co-founder of REC Canada, which is under the umbrella of Royal LePage. And I'm not supposed to boost too many brokerages here, but if I wasn't where I was, I'd be at Signature. All right. He is the owner of the #1 real estate team in the country for Royal LePage. He is the host of his own kick-ass podcast. He is an author of Real Estate Intelligence, and he is most well known for being an incredible mentor, friend, and father. It is our pleasure to introduce you to Jas Takhar. Welcome, man.
Wow. Thank you so much. To you, Emma, I'm so glad that you remembered that sign, because I've been doing that for the 19 years that I've been in real estate. But more importantly, for you to actually take it and then do something with it and implement it in your business, you're really good for my ego. I wish I could kind of carry you around in my pocket all the time. Thank you for that amazing intro and the energy that you brought. I'm pumped. I'm just as pumped to bring some value to at least, like, for the hundreds of thousands of people that will end up seeing this video or listening to the audio at some point, in the year or in 5 years, whenever that happens. I know that majority of people, unfortunately, are not going to take the action, but I just hope it inspires one person. And to tie like your whole intro into a nice little bow, it's exactly the reason I do these podcasts and do talks and all that kind of stuff, because I inspired you just a little bit, like 0.00001%, and now you're going to pay that forward to the hundreds upon thousands of people that are going to be listening to this. So, and as well, kudos and congratulations to the both of you on this new venture of the podcast. And so I think there's more positivity that's needed out there in so many different realms and industries. And so I know you two are going to do your part, and obviously the team in the back end, because I'm sure that it's not just you two that are going to be putting this all together. And so congratulations and kudos to everyone on the team as well.
Thank you, man. I really, really appreciate that. I think, as you kind of grow into more of a leadership role, you realize that implementation has to be the key. Like, you're not going to get anywhere by just listening to information and then not doing anything with it. And yeah, man, honestly, that meeting that you and I had, it inspired me. It changed things in my business. And I again, to kind of echo what you just said, is I hope our conversation here today can do that for one person. And if it does that for one person, then I think we kind of accomplished our goal.
Yeah, like, you said implementation is so important, and I couldn't agree with you anymore, because I think we grew up kind of being told a lie, which is that knowledge is power, right? I like in all honesty, it's potential power. The actual use of that knowledge is what's power, right? And so nobody really should, in my opinion anyways, aspire to be the smartest person in the graveyard, right? Like, I mean, what you want to do is take some of these things that you two are going to be speaking about, and the again, thousands of guests that you're going to be bringing on. You actually got to do something with it. And I think for most people, specifically real estate agents, because I have a lot of data there, and I'm sure we'll get into that, it's this fear of, oh my God, I'm going to look stupid, or what is someone else going to think of me, or this imposter syndrome word that gets thrown out there, right? Not that it doesn't exist, but I think it all boils down to some type of insecurity. It generally probably boils down to someone at a very young age, a teacher, a counselor, maybe a parent, a sibling, whatever it is, telling that person that they just weren't good enough. Hence why I wear this shirt or sweater in the wintertime, as it's going to get colder in Toronto here soon. It's reminding people that, look, you're enough. You have all the possible resources that you need, the resources in the sense of the money, the time, and most importantly, the people. The right resources you'll get in front of if you start to think about more of what you want and less of what you don't want. Because what is true no matter what, just like gravity, like this bottle is gonna fall no matter what. Gravity will always do its thing. So will the universe and the law of vibration, meaning that it doesn't know the difference between what's good and what's bad. And so if you start to put out more of what you don't want, unfortunately, you're going to get more of that. But on the positive side of that coin, if you start to think about, look, I want to build a better business. I want to build my business around my life and not the other way around. I want to attract clients to me. I want to be able to prospect more. Well, then universe says, okay, great. You're on that frequency. Let me give you the right people. Let me give you the resources that were always there. Now you're just going to get in front of them. It's the easiest example for people to understand is that if they bought a brand new car, they will start to see that car everywhere and be like, oh my God, it's such a quinky dink. I keep on seeing this blue Mazda that I just bought. Like, I never seen them before. And they were there already. It's just that front part of your brain, which is called the reticular activator, that now got turned on for you to see all those blue Mazdas around you.
So I want to ask you something without getting into the classic, like, let's rewind the clock and tell me your whole story. I want to know, when was it in your career that you had kind of that mental shift? Because I imagine at some point in your career, you were thinking, all right, like, how am I going to make this happen? How do I become Jas? You know what I mean? How do I become who Jas is today? Was there like a light switch that went off, or what? Like, tell me about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was a light switch necessarily, Emma. I almost got pushed into it because about exactly 6 years ago to the date in a couple of weeks, a tragic thing happened where my business partner at that time, my mentor, really an older brother, passed away. And he at a very, very young age of like 52 or 53 at that time, he's the one who really mentored me in the real estate business, took me under his arm. He would, like, if he was alive right now, the truth of the matter is he would be doing this podcast with you. He would have invited you to the office. He's the one who had my name on a sign 19 years ago, changed my whole outlook. And what happened, because he was the face, not only to the general public and other real estate agents, but to our actual client base. And that was the time where, once he passed away, left a massive gaping hole. I always, like, it's been in my DNA to be as good looking as I am. That's the joke for the day. But I always knew I had the sales DNA. Like, since I was 6 years old, I've been doing this. I've never worked in any other industry in my life, but I was scared shitless of the camera. I was not comfortable with putting myself out there. But massive gaping hole. I don't know if this business is going to keep going. 6 years ago, he passes away. The way that he passed away has, there's still questions that haven't been answered 6 years removed from there. And our clients, some of our biggest referral sources, they left us. And that's not a complaint. I would have probably too with what happened. And I decided that, look, if this is going to continue this business, it's going to be on the back of me putting myself out there. And as easy as this is for me to do with you two right now, 6 years ago, if you listen, so I just recorded my 222nd podcast episode.
Yeah, amazing.
Thank you. If you go back to the first 7 episodes, which was probably exactly about 4 years ago, it sounded, and so I would have been, 37? It sounded like I was going through puberty at 37. Like, I was nervous, and you could hear it. There was no actual video, actually, so you could only listen, and you can tell the inflection in my voice. I think that's the right word. And most of your viewers and listeners are going to realize, like, half the words I say today, I can't spell either, so don't ask me to spell any of these things. Over time, I got comfortable, and it wasn't until I did an interview with Ryan Serhant from $1 Million Listing in New York that I said, you know what? I got to put the camera on because it's a big kind of interview from what I realized, and people are talking about, oh, this is a guy that you really want to put on video. If you watch that 37-minute video, there's not even a half a second that I ever look at the camera. I don't make eye contact like this at all because I was so scared because I had the insecurities. I was worried, like, for people that are outside of Toronto right now, I'm born and raised on the north part of Toronto in an area called Rexdale. That's where people tell you, put up your windows and lock your doors. It has a bad stigma, right? And the Rexdale out of me comes out, the F-bombs and the fact that I don't know how to spell a lot of things. I was definitely sheltered from a lot of the negativity in Rexdale from my upbringing with my 2 older brothers and parents. But I knew that people are going to realize, oh, this guy's not like formally educated and he's talking about helping people create wealth in real estate. Oh, sometimes he has this wonky, lazy eye and he has a little stutter at times. I had to get over that. And the only thing that got me over that, and it's unfortunate for a lot of your viewers and listeners, because I don't have the blue magic pill like our boy Keanu Reeves had in Matrix, right? I can't give you one thing. But what I could tell you is that confidence comes from experience. Experience will always breed confidence. And so that's the unfortunate part. I wish it was easier. I wish we could just go to Walmart and check out and buy, a bag of confidence. But it doesn't work like that. You got to put in the work first, and then that's how you get confident. And over time, it wasn't probably till like episode 50 where I was like, I got this. I think I could do this. I actually just got to be curious, like you two are right now. Like, you're just asking questions. You're curious, like, hey, bro, like, how'd you start your business? What are you up to? What's working for you? All that kind of stuff. And so for the person who's listening right now, it really comes down to the one strategy that is pasted all over my house for my 2 little boys, 9 and 7, pasted for all my team members, which is the strategy of ready, fire, aim, which means don't do what we were taught, which is kind of look before you leap in business. Meaning, pull the trigger as many times as you possibly can, because most people, successful business people, are right 50% of the time and they're wrong 50% of the time. So you might as well just pull the trigger as much as you possibly could and then adjust along the way. That doesn't mean don't aim at some point. The problem with ready, aim, fire is that most people just get stuck in paralysis by analysis.
I have a quick question for you before we move on from this topic, because I've never heard anybody ask you this question, but you mentioned your business partner, and the tragedy that happened with your business partner was kind of the catalyst to help you be like, okay, well, we don't really have like the face of our business anymore. So someone needs to either step up if we're going to continue this business, or like, we got to figure out something here, right? And so was that transition into you become, I wouldn't say comfortable right away, but you putting yourself in the position where you're like, someone has to step up. Is that you living out a portion of his legacy? Is that like your why to get you going? Or was it just like, shit, I got to save this business. Like, this is just what I got to do.
Yeah, no, it was more the latter there. Like, I just knew that this business is not going to continue if there's not going to be one of us. And I have a current business partner in my real estate company. And if it wasn't for him being the just beautiful soul inside and out that he is, but really taking the realm of handling the accounting, legal, all the back end stuff at that time. Now he's out there a lot more as well, and he's doing an amazing job. But at that time, I knew that we had someone playing a little bit of defense. I'm by nature an offense guy. Like, I would rather, in any sport I ever played, anything I watch, I'm always like, I have an affinity to the team that can win, like, in basketball, 175 to 145. I just like the offensive teams. And so for me, I knew I needed to go on the offense, but all of it, in fact, Emma, had to do more with the fact of keeping the business going, which probably in a funny way, and I appreciate the question because you're right, nobody's ever asked me that. In a weird way, it probably had a little bit to do with keeping the legacy alive, right? Like, I was with this guy for 13 years. Like, I was his right-hand guy. Like, he took me in like a little brother. And that's hard for me to say because I got two real older brothers that I love, and we like hook up all the time on a weekly basis. And so I know how it feels to be a little brother. You're actually closer to the bottom than you are to the top at all times. And they always remind you of it. When he was thinking about growing our team and getting to #1 in Royal LePage Canada, all those things that he wanted to do, I guess in a funny way, I wanted to keep that going. But I can still remember the first 5, 6, 7 months after his passing, it was just about keeping the lights on. We probably had about 3 or 4 full-time staff at that time. We probably had about 22 agents, 23 agents. We're at like 15 full-time support staff and 62 agents now, right? And so we really also understood that we were responsible for other people, but let's not get it twisted. Like, I was married at that time, still am, and my boys were a little younger. I also had that responsibility. So it was all about, let's keep the lights going on. The legacy stuff started to probably come into play later. Like, now sitting here, it's like, yeah, I know he's smiling up there. He's watching and saying, I always told you, Jas, it should have been you who's on the camera. Like, he used to say shit. And I'd be like, where the fuck are you going? And sorry for the F-bomb, but like, where are you going, bro? You know what I mean? And so, yeah, it's probably cool to see. I'm sure he's smiling up there.
That's amazing. So that's a really good story. And I want to kind of go back in your story a little bit, mentioning coming from Rexdale, which, as you said, for those not from Toronto that don't know, is probably known or has the reputation of being one of the roughest neighborhoods, not only in Toronto, but probably in Canada. There's movies about it, videos, documentaries. Give me a bit of your journey. I know you said really you started in sales at the age of 6 and it's always been in you. What was your first real sales job that like actually turned the light on, that was like, I'm great at this, or like I've got potential at this and this is what I'm going to be doing in some form for the rest of my
newspapers life? I actually thought at the age of 12, that's when I first had my first newspaper out, but it was with the Toronto Sun. And I mentioned the Toronto Sun for a specific reason, because anybody who had that kind of route or something similar, you had to knock on doors first to get people to subscribe. So that was one portion of it. Then you had to actually do the work, deliver the newspapers. That's kind of the easier part, right? Mind you, at times like you have to wake up early and so I learned some work ethic through that. But then the second part was the more interesting part, because you had to go and actually collect the money. It happened at 2 different times. So you're building relationships. Now there's that sexy word, right? Like, build relationships, don't be transactional. At 12, you don't know that. You don't really even have a word for it, but I was doing it at 12. Like, I knew there was going to be certain doors that were going to be a little tougher to collect the money from. On the flip side, I knew come Christmas time, because I lived in a predominant, there's a little pocket in Rexdale that was back in early 90s to kind of mid 90s, that was all predominantly Italian. And we were like the one Indian family there, so they kind of knew us, and we obviously really, really loved that culture. We're very similar, in fact, Italians and Indians. But anyways, they celebrated Christmas. It's not like I grew up celebrating Christmas. I knew who Santa was and all that kind of stuff. But I knew come Christmas time, those tips were going to be huge. And all I had to do on both ends, getting new customers and then building those relationships, at the age of 12, I figured it out. It was smile. You have a much better chance if you knock on this door and you're smiling. They might be pissed off. Something happened inside the home. They might be having a bad day, whatever it may be. But the starting point was with a big smile. And then the next phase of it, especially when you're trying to get new customers, was how quickly could you build rapport? So as a 12-year-old, I'm walking up to the door and I'm looking around like, okay, they have a basketball net, they have a car, a red sports car. I can mention something. How fast can I build rapport with this person, which will give me the best and the highest probability of getting them a new customer? But to your question, at the age of 12, I was hooked. Because the reason I said 6, because at 6, I was the kid who was putting up his hand to say, hey, I'll help with the book sale. I'll help with the selling of the Christmas ornaments and all that kind of stuff. And at 12, I got paid for it. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Somebody's giving me money to knock on doors and just like deliver. This is awesome. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. But I think the biggest, like once I realized, I can do this commission stuff was when I went into car sales. So I sold cars for 3 years at Acura at a very high level. And that's just a different, like anybody who wants to get into sales, I know we're talking to a lot of real estate agents, probably, obviously our cousins in the industry, mortgage brokers always slip into these things, and welcome and we love you. But if you're thinking about a career in sales, I highly recommend going to a car showroom. Start there because the bar is set so low. Like there's just that stigma, right? Of used car salesmen, new car salesmen, they're pushy. And so it's actually quite easy. It's a lot easier than people think. Don't be that ass. Like don't be that pushy person. Don't try to manipulate people. Be nice. But when you work in a car showroom, I think the biggest difference between car sales and real estate is that real estate has a longer life in terms of nobody's going to buy the open house that they walk into. We know the statistics around that. You need to build a relationship. It could take 6 months. By the time you get the prospect, show them the property and they close. In car sales, you got like 6 minutes. I'm exaggerating by saying 6 minutes, but person who walks into the showroom, statistically, they're going to buy a car in a week. And so you need to be able to build that rapport quickly. It's very high pressure sales. But again, the bar is set low, so you don't have to do much. So I think it was really newspapers. And then the next elevation happened when I was 18, 19 years old and I was working in car sales.
How did you end up in car sales so young?
So I used to work at the bank, CIBC, for about 3 years as well. So once I finished high school, I knew that wasn't for me. I knew the reason I used to put up my hand probably be at 6 was because I needed to get out of class. Like I didn't learn in that setting. I was doing my real estate license in phase 1, phase 2. Like I was the guy that held back the teacher. Like I was like, I need help with this stuff. Like I don't understand some of the basic English here. And so after high school, I looked for a job. I got lucky, just kind of came across one of those agencies. They hooked me up with the bank. I got a full-time job when telephone banking just came out. And so that's where I kind of picked up phone skills for 3 years, like just basic stuff, thanking people for putting asking them to put them on hold, thanking them for being on hold, small little things that I think more and more people can learn when it comes to phone skills. But then for 3 years, I just, I got this pit in my stomach, man. I was like, this is not for me. They're not really moving me up because I don't really have a degree. I don't have even a diploma like from college or anything. I'm going to look into something different. My brother, who was a personal trainer at that time, and you probably can't tell by me, by the way, he was happened to be training the owner of the top Acura, Honda, Toyota at that time. And now this family is probably top 2 in the country for the amount of cars they sell. The Policaro family, just amazing, amazing. And the owner there took me in as a mentor. I actually went there to get a job to detail the cars. Talked to me for 5 minutes. He's like, bro, just why don't you try this selling cars? I was like, I know nothing. Like, I don't know the difference between a 4-cylinder and a 6-cylinder. I wasn't the kid who had a Lamborghini Countach poster on my wall. I'm a sports guy. He's like, you don't really need to know about the cars. You just don't need to be an ass. And I'll teach you about the cars. Don't worry about that. We have 5 cars in our lineup at Acura, and just learn the brochure. So I memorized the brochure, which would screw me sometimes because if somebody asked me a technical question about the car, I don't know the answer, but I do know who knows the answer. The mechanic. Come to the back. Let's go to the back. Let me show you the mechanic shop. And so I learned really quickly that I didn't need to know the answers. And that's important for your your viewers and listeners as real estate agents, we try to be the expert at everything, where I think it's more important to just quarterback the process of somebody buying, selling, or investing, and be okay with saying, you know what, Emma, that's a great question about the return on the investment. I don't actually have the answer right now. Let me get back to you so I don't misinform you.
Yeah.
Because who in the hell wants to be misinformed, right? And so I learned that really quickly in car sales, and I brought that into real estate. But that's how I got into car sales at around 18.
Did they give you any sense of like formal sales training when you got into it? Like they were just like, hey, take this brochure and good luck?
He's like,
They just threw you on the floor.
yeah, like I was very, very blessed to be mentored by the owner himself, where like he didn't really give me any formal training, but I just got to listen to him a lot, right? And so what I would do is when he was speaking with a customer, I would pick up like a rag and act like I'm cleaning the car that he was talking about, and my ears just to everything that he was speaking about. But he would always do something different. Like what he would do, I still remember this, that he would open the front door of the car, the driver door, and he would jump. So you know where your window, like where you put your windows down?
Yeah.
He would stand on that and jump on it. And the reason he would do that is because he was showcasing to the customer that, look, these cars are built really well. And I learned really quickly, it's not about the features. Who gives a shit if it has AC? What does that really mean? What's the benefit to the customer, right? So we all mention, I deal more with investors now. So a lot of people talk about features about investing into real estate, but we don't care as consumers about the features. We care about what it actually means to us. And that's the benefit. So never, ever mention a feature without mentioning its benefit. So to you, Emma, that's what I probably learned from him really quickly. And then he taught me things like, look, over time, you're going to get a knack of realizing who's the decision maker when a couple walks in. There's going to be two partners walking in, get to the person who, and you're going to be wrong sometimes, and that's okay. You just want to be right more than you're wrong in this situation. Figure out who the decision maker is and make sure they like you. If they don't like you, you're going to lose for sure, because at the end of the night when they're in bed, even if with Acura cars, there's probably in a 25-kilometer radius till this day, there's probably like 10 dealerships. You can only discount a car so much. So it comes down to who did that person like and who do they actually trust that is going to take care of their car in after service. And so if you can make a quick decision on who the decision maker is, and are they more analytical, are they more emotional? I mean, that's phase, selling 102 and 103. But you can make a huge difference if you can actually relate with the decision maker.
Okay, so that's an absolute bomb, but I think that you just kind of like sneakily glanced over a massive bomb that most people probably just missed. And that was when you had your mentor, you were like, oh, I grabbed the rag and I just kind of like, I was a part of the conversation without being a part of the conversation. And it's so interesting because, starting with Zoocasa and then moving up as like a showing specialist and having the mentor to becoming a mentor, it is so overlooked like when you are a mentee, being that supporting cast for the mentor, like that goes such a far way. And I think a lot of people really don't understand how to kind of play with that dynamic to really have that mentor say like, wow, you're doing a great job. And like something as small as that, as being a supporting cast, you're working and you're still helping them while you're still learning. Like I think so many people just overlook that. And that is like, for you to just pick that up, that little thing that you just naturally did just showcases to me that you're going to be a great salesperson, because a lot of people would just overlook that.
I say this a lot to like through my content, like until you're ready to have your own table and build your own table. And when I mean table, it's the analogy of a boardroom table. Start bringing coffees to the table that already exists, right? And so as a real estate agent, if I was starting out right now, I'm going to find the top 15 teams in my local area. And I'm going to call, and the reason I say 15, because it might not be till team 14 that someone says yes to what you're going to ask for. And I'm going to say, look, I don't want anything. Like, I don't want to get paid right now. You decide to pay me later on if this works out, and great. We'll get to that later on. But in the meantime, can I go get like your coffees for your team meetings? Can I, when you print something, I'll go to the printer. Do you need somebody, like you're probably paying somebody to put up for sale signs and lock boxes? I'll just do that for you. No problem. You want me to, look, I mean, I said it to my mentor in real estate 19 years ago. I said, as long as you're not going to lie to me, I'll clean your toilets. No problem. Like, because I'm going to learn from you. At that time, he was in the business for 25 years, right? And so I think more and more people should. Now, what you need to do what I'm saying, which is bring coffees to the table, you got to check the ego at the door. That's the hard thing. That's the tough thing, because it's like, and even somebody's going to watch this and say, this guy's an idiot. Like, he's telling people to work for free. Yeah, until you get paid. Because your income will always be determined by the value you bring to the marketplace. So whatever I'm earning right now, whatever you guys are earning right now, whoever's listening right now, whatever your income is, that's the value that's determined by the value you bring to the marketplace. Because unfortunately, we don't decide, the marketplace decides what your value is worth. And so if you're making $100,000 a year, $100,000 a month, $100,000 a day, it's what your value is. And if you want to increase your income, don't think about the money, increase the value you bring. And so if you're coming into this business, unfortunately, in Canada right now, there's 126,000 real estate agents. North America, I think we're touching 1.3, 1.4 million, something along those lines. There's a lot of friggin' real estate agents, right? And so if you throw a rock, you'll hit one here in the Greater Toronto area. Your value is really zero. Starting out. That might not land with a lot of people in a positive way, but it's the truth. But the good thing about that is all you got to do is surround yourself with people that are doing what you want to do.
So I've got a selfish question off of that for you. I agree with you wholeheartedly, but I feel like the issue out there in today's society is too many people want their own table too soon and aren't willing to sneak a seat at the table and slowly move up somebody else's table. So as obviously you've built, a 62 person, a hugely successful team, I helped build a 250 person team in the past, but the one thing that I still can't put a finger on, this is why I'm asking this question, because I hope you have the magic for me right now, and this will help a lot of other people. Is there something that helps you identify? Is there one question you can ask that helps you identify somebody that you think is going to be patient and willing to move their way up in your table versus wanting their own table super quickly? Because I've always struggled with that.
Yeah.
As a leader, finding those people.
It's funny, even when I hire, it doesn't matter what role I'm hiring someone for. I ask the question of, where do you want to be in the next 5 years? I think 10 years from that perspective, for me anyways, is too long of a gap. Like, it's too far out. And so 5 years is like, I can kind of touch and see 5 years. You can. Funny enough, and this is probably not the answer you're looking for, the only other question I ask when I'm sitting down with people is if they have siblings. I don't know where this came from. I just found myself asking that question. And then when I actually sat down and thought about, why am I always asking this question? I came to realize that my crew, my table, we spend a lot of time together. In fact, there's been numerous times in the last decade, but specifically 6 years, where we went through renovations and construction. We didn't really even have an office at some points. We had COVID, all these things, where all we had was a table, right? Like, we didn't have offices, like all that. We got a little fancy recently, to be honest with you, but I mean, we really didn't have all that. And what started to happen, and I started to realize, is that we spend a lot of time together. And I'm sure in the last 35 minutes of me talking, people got a kind of sense, like, I sometimes like the sound of my own voice. I like to talk, and I can go off on tangents and shit like that. Now, that can be tough for people, but then there's also people at my table that also have the need to speak as well. And so we're on top of each other a lot. And to me, it's the only thing I can relate it to is when you have siblings. You fight, but you probably didn't kill them. You know what I mean? And meaning something happened subconsciously or consciously that you figured out, you know what, we just need a little bit of space. We ain't going to talk for 3 days. And you pass each other in the staircase, on the stairway, whatever. You pass each other in the hallway and you don't say anything, but then 3-4 days later, you're like back to normal. You almost like even swept the shit under the rug. I get it. That might not be a good thing from a psychologist's perspective, but at the end of the day, siblings figure it out. So you fight and then you still love each other and you respect each other. And so that's how I built my table. I'm always asking, you got the siblings? Okay. And not that there's people, I have a couple of people that don't have siblings, but then you got to let it play out, man. That's really the only way that I figured out. And you yourself have to have the patience to see if they have the patience to let it play out. And there's been people who come to my table and, we're very positive people. And some people think that's, foofy-foffy and philosophical and they don't want to be around it. And I completely understand. But the right people have stuck around. Like my core group, they're 7 years and over with me, and they've actually, my VP in my real estate company, which I think you guys might even have on the podcast coming up sometime, she's now become a business partner in my training academy. I move people up real quick. Majority of the people started off as either not that she did, but they either started off as an intern or an assistant. I got one guy, Tyler, who literally leads my CRM. Like he leads everything that we do with my CRM. He was my waiter at Jack Astor's underneath my office 10 years ago. And the guy's 31. I just turned 31 a couple of days ago. He worked his way up. And so there's a lot, I had to have the patience, but then I also had to realize he wanted to be a real estate agent. He tried it out. He's like, screw this, man. I don't want to do these showings. I'm never home. I want to start a family. Can you start a role for me maybe where it's 9 to 5? I'm like, dude, real estate doesn't exist. Like that kind of role doesn't exist in real estate. I was like, let me go home. I'll talk to you in a week. And then I started to think about, okay, what I need him. I knew this 7 years ago. The hospital, where he comes from a Jack Astor's, his ability to be so hospitable, you want that in your crew, right? And I made up a role, which is literally you're going to be the director of real estate concierge services. And so for anybody who's listening, please steal this. It's not ripping me off if I'm telling you to do it. We call our clients, instead of saying, do you want to buy, sell, or invest? I personally think that sounds a little bit more like, air duct cleaners. What we did about 6 years ago is call our clients and say, hey, Emma, I'm just giving you a call. I just need to know, did you need a painter? No. Do you need an electrician? Do you need a landscaper? No. Okay. Do you need a gardener? Listen, I'm just letting you know we have a free real estate concierge service at any time. Any of the services in and around your home, including a second set of eyes on a lease agreement that maybe you're putting into place, reach out to us. Hey, Emma, now that I have you on the phone, I'm just really, really curious. Where's your headspace at with what you're hearing and watching about the real estate market? Boom. Opens up a conversation. Sometimes that leads to things. Sometimes it doesn't lead to things. But he's the one who's leading all that whole division and department of ours. But I needed to have the patience to let that play out.
So he's more of like a customer service. He's like what would you call him?
I call him
service.
Well, I actually call him his real title is our investment coach, because so we have 2 other callers that he manages that actually make that phone call, but he started it. He's the one who's making the calls. We grew and scaled. Yeah. So when that person asks the question of where's your headspace at, the person says something, right? And then either my guys will say, okay, great. Okay, you don't have a head, you're not really thinking about investing, no problem. Is it okay if we just check in if you needed that painter or electrician in 4 months from now? Yeah, great. So we follow up again. But if that person says, well, look, man, I was actually wondering, with all these interest rate changes, I don't know what the hell's going to happen with my investment property. I don't want to misinform you. That's what the caller is going to say, right? I don't want to misinform you. It's a little above my pay grade. Why don't I set up what's called a real estate action plan with our real estate investment coach? What time is better for you, Wednesday at 3 or Thursday at 4? And then that's when that gets booked. And then Tyler takes that call. He decides what type of income property might fit their portfolio, sends it out to my 60 agents.
Love it.
That's my whole business model in a nutshell, by the way.
It's so interesting because I'm part of a massive marketing mastermind. And one of the things, we had a full conversation about this, and about disguising the sales process being the key to really helping people, because most people don't want to be sold to. And so I really love the way that you have it set up. It's like the intention really to reach out. Obviously the goal or the objective at some point in time is I'm going to have enough conversations that one of these things is going to go somewhere. But the entire thing is really like, it disguises the sale process so well, because that really isn't the first layer of defense. It really is to help. And then a byproduct of, helping so many people is you actually do get to the end goal or to the objective. I think it brings you back to the point of what you were saying, where people don't have patience, right? And then, it comes full circle to that conversation of, don't build your own table until you're ready. Well, most people aren't in a position where they can just give. And I know that's a Gary Vee thing. Alex Hormozy even more so. He's just giving until someone asks. But I think, I love the way that it's like, the disguise of the sales process is oftentimes the best thing that you can do for your business, is to not put it in a sales process and the sale comes out of it.
I agree with you so much. We do crazy shit. Like in August 2020, so kind of the heart of COVID, I did a 12-hour investing marathon nonstop. Because this time I was like, nobody can shut me up now. Now I can go on for 12 hours straight. I went for 12 hours straight. We called it our real estate investment marathon. I had a little over, and it was only for my clients. I didn't do any paid ads, none of that. So not that you shouldn't do that stuff. I've probably done paid ad once in my 19-year career. So I'm always talking about patience, Emma. It's all about my database. I do the boring, basic stuff. What I do is not sexy, other than maybe the content stuff, like the video. We did a 12-hour marathon, and for 11 hours, I educated. I brought on speakers. I spoke with them. I hosted the whole thing. And for one of those 12 hours, we sold 23 units in a condo project. Saturday, September 23rd, I'm doing kind of like a half marathon. I'm going to go for 5 hours. Same thing. 4 hours of complete education, bringing the top speakers in and around creating wealth in real estate. And for an hour, I'm going to tell people, look, if you're ready, you might not be, you might be ready. Here's an opportunity. If you want to take it, great. If not, I hope you got value from all the conversations I had today on this marathon. So we do a lot of giving, and then we'll ask, but what I will say on that webinar at the start at some point, guys, just so you know, it's not going to be all about education today. There is going to be an opportunity that I'm going to present somewhere in the middle of this webinar. And so if you're ready, great. Again, if you're not, that's okay. But I do want you to know that there's going to be an opportunity, because I don't want also people to think that I'm like completely manipulating them with the education, because I'm not. I'm just going to be upfront about it. I think there was a question that was sent to me along the lines about what's the biggest sales objection, right? And I laughed to myself because I'm like, ooh, that's a tough one for me to answer, because I always bring the objections up front, right? So I just kind of now have an idea when I'm speaking to a buyer, a seller, or a real estate agent that might be thinking about the academy or an investor. I know what objections you have. Let me just bring them all up front, and then let's just get to the core issue. Because the core issue is your time or your money. That's what I've kind of brought it back, focus in and hone in on. And then once I get to that, there's really no objection.
So I want to ask you something, because there's going to be someone that listens to this podcast that wants to do that, right? Everybody's like, oh man, I want to do these events, or I want to, do these webinars. And everybody's freaked out because they're like, no one's going to show up to this shit. So I want to ask you, obviously you did a 12-hour thing. People are showing up to Jas's events now. But at some point in time, Jas probably did an event where he was like, nobody showed up to that thing, or way fewer people showed up to the thing than I expected. So what's your advice for those people that are scared shitless to try?
I'll give you the story of all stories. 643 events I've done in 19 years, okay? In person or educational. My events, not ones that I went to or spoke, no, ones that I've put on. But there was an event 3 months after, so it was September, my Simon passed away. December, it was the first time that it was going to be the event that I put on. It was me taking the helm. We did a lot of, it was the only time that I did the Google and Facebook ads, because I was like, I got to do something here. I don't know what the heck to do. Let's just throw this out there. We have a project. It's a student housing project in Kitchener-Waterloo. We set up 2 Greyhound buses. Okay, we get 140 people registered. It's going to be, from Toronto to Kitchener is about an hour and a half or something like that, and back. And so it's going to be like a 6-hour day event, showing them this student housing complex. It's already made. We got lunch. We got a hotel. I got a lawyer speaker. I got a mortgage broker. I got the developer who kind of put this thing all together and finished it. 140 people registered. We're making phone calls, guys, like without any exaggeration, like literally for 15 hours. And you might be like, you're calling people at 11? Yeah, because I also had people like in BC that wanted to know about it. So timed it, all of that. About 4 days before, it went from 140 to like 70, okay? Then it came down to like 50 2 days before. So I canceled one of the Greyhound buses. Greyhound bus is supposed to pick us up at 9:30 a.m. At 9:30, I show up obviously at like around 8:45, make sure the Greyhound bus is there. Myself and like 4 team members, so like 5 of us in total. 9:45, 0 people. I got all those speakers, by the way, waiting at the hotel in Kitchener-Waterloo. We start calling all the people that are registered. Nobody picks up their phone. 9:50, 1 person shows up. 9:55, 2 people show up. At 9:55, the bus driver's yelling at me now. I know how to kind of schmooze and, distract the guy a little bit, yada, yada. But now it's half an hour late. He's like, bro, I don't give a shit. I'm going. I'm out of here. 10 o'clock, it's me, the 4 other team members, and 2 people in this Greyhound bus. Those 2 people, though, they already bought. They just came for the free lunch, and they came to just take a look. So we went there, we did the show, yada, yada, yada. I had a videographer. I, got some content out of it. I'm driving back hour and a half, and I want to cry. Like, I'm not a crier on the outside, but, I have emotions, and I'm looking outside of this bus, and I'm like, never again. Like, I'm going back to basics. I'm not going to do the cold stuff anymore right now. It's not for me. I'm not built for that. I'm built for relationships. At that time, I had 3,500 people in my CRM that we've cultivated at that time for 13 years. I'm just going to call them all, and we're just going to have a conversation. Now, I sit at 11,642 people in my CRM that have been cultivated for a total of 19 years. The whole business has been built around that. And so what I say to people when it comes to events is that imagine I stopped doing events after that. I wouldn't have been able to do the business I've done. I wouldn't have been able to have the comfort that I have on a conversation like this. Doing the events makes your videos better. Doing videos makes your events better. Like you gotta do all of it. It's the full 360 of lead generation in my eyes, and putting on educational in-person events and webinars, in-person is better, will make you the authority for your business with your network. I'm not talking about becoming Kim Kardashian, Joe Rogan, and shit like that. I'm talking about the 200 people on your cell phone. That's all you need. That's all you really need. Because if 200 people know 200 people that know 200 people, your network now is 40,000. And out of 40,000 people, I know most people that are watching this, if you do 100 deals in a year, your life's going to change, right? And so I get the fear of not having people show up, but I'll give you the numbers right now. Scientific. I have a lot of data, 642 events. 50% of people will show that registered, period. So if you want 50 people in your place, I get 101 just for good measure. You want 100 people? Register 200, right? Like that's what's going to be the numbers like clockwork. There's actually a webinar my team is putting on right now as we speak on how to podcast. We had 175 people registered. I just got the message before I came on this podcast. We had a little over 75 people that came on, 75, 80 people. So the numbers are right there. They're always about 50%. And so once you know, okay, well, 50% of people are going to show up, worst comes to worst, no one does show up. That happens again. And
how do you get the like? Because that's like it's one thing for your time, but you also invested a shit ton of money in that, and more importantly than anything else, other people's time. Yeah. And relationships, and I'm sure that was the biggest thing for you is you're like, oh shit, I put my ass on the line for this mortgage broker and this lawyer. Like that is actually probably the worst case. Yeah. So
sorry to cut you off, Emma, really quickly. Yeah. Actually, because you took me back there, and I appreciate that. The actual worst case was driving home and telling myself, because it was the person that was speaking to me inside the 6 inches between the ears, that was like, you're not made for this. That was the worst part. Your partner passed away, they're all right. Everybody who said that you guys are done, they're right. So that was what I was dealing with. The mortgage broker and the lawyer, I didn't even get to those guys yet. You know, it was really looking at my current business partner, my VP, Laura, Simos, my current business partner, and my 2 team members. After I dealt with, oh my God, they're all right, I suck. Then looking at them saying, holy shit, these guys are not going to look at me like a leader. I failed. But then something happened on that ride home that said, go back to basics. I came to the whiteboard the next morning. I literally wrote, back to basics. And everyone was like, what the hell does this mean? We're going to pick up the phone with the people that know us and we're going to call them all. And we're going to ask their permission to see if we can continue to follow up. And I called every single one and I said, my partner passed away, as you obviously know. I just want to know if you're going to be with us in terms of, are you comfortable with us still educating you when it comes to creating wealth in real estate? 98% of people said yes. Thank you so much for calling. Oh my God, how are you doing? I can't even imagine what you're going. You had those conversations. And there's 2% of people said, no, man, you guys are weird. Like, nah, we're not going to deal with you. I'm like, no problem. Great. Delete, delete, delete. Then we had our base and our foundation, and then we built on that. But I apologize for cutting you off, Emma.
No, but how do you, if I'm new and that happens to me, how do you go back to doing another in-person event? Like, I get it. It's like, hey, I'm behind, like, I'm sitting down at my desk. I'm going to make these calls now. I'm not there belly to belly with you. So there's there's just something a little bit different about that environment. But the next time that Jas is about to go do an in-person event, maybe it's another Greyhound thing. How do you overcome not being like, I'm just going to sit on the phone and do the thing that's working? How do I try this again?
I think it comes down to like, what's your why, right? And for me, where I'm at in my career now, my why is to see how far I can take this. It's more of a game for me, right? Like, I made way more money than I ever dreamt that I was ever going to make. Like, I'm a son of a taxi driver and a factory worker. My father had a grade 8 education. My mother had a grade 4 education. I saw them pinch pennies their whole life. Like, I'm living the dream. Like the Canadian dream for sure. And so for me now, the why is like, oh, well, I was kind of given a God-given talent. I do have a little bit of charisma. Like, for me to not say that, I wouldn't even be humble. Like, I know I can lead a group of people. I want to see how far I want to take this. But for everyone else, I would say ask yourself that question. What is your why? Because when things get tough and no one shows up to your event, you can only really ask yourself one of 2 questions. Like, am I going to quit? Or am I going to keep going, right? And when the why is strong enough, that's just an obstacle. It's about failing forward, And some of these are cliches, I know that, but I think they're cliches because they work and they're true, right? And you got to remind yourself that there's not one person, as good as you two look and how smooth I'm sure your lines are when you're speaking to prospects, you failed at some point.
Oh,
Lots of times.
And if we're all honest, we fail daily,
yep.
Right? And so this notion that people have success without failure is complete and utter bullshit. It actually takes time to build something that's worthwhile. Unfortunately, social media with the instant gratification shows things differently, and not everybody's profiles. There's a lot of positivity and inspiring profiles out there, but I think it really comes down to your why, and that's what will keep you going when times get tough.
I love it, man. We have to close off with our couple quick sales and marketing questions.
Let's do it.
Practical stuff. Of all of you're a learner. I know you're a knowledge guy. You're a knowledge and implementation guy. Step 1, step 2. What is the best book, course, I don't care what it is, podcast, YouTube channel, whatever, that you've ever taken in that has made the biggest impact on your sales career, or at that time at least, to get you to the next level?
There's been 2 major steps, and the good thing is that the resources are going to be available to everyone, and it's awesome, and 90% of it's going to be free, but 10% of it, how far you take some of these people's resources, it's going to cost you money. Like, this is not an expense, this is an investment into yourself, into your business. At the age of 23, once I got licensed in real estate, my mentor at that time handed me I still have it. If I was in my office, I would show you a 7-day audio CD of Anthony Robbins. And I looked at my guy and I was like, Anthony Robbins, this guy who does those stupid infomercials late at night. Like, who the hell listens to this garbage? I was like, you listen to this? He's like, have you ever heard of any of his stuff? I was like, no. He's like, so how can you judge? You're literally judging a book by its cover, an audio CD by its cover. It makes no sense. I was like, okay, I'll give it a listen. Anthony Robbins, like Tony Robbins, unbelievable. This guy has coached the top performers in the world. the Michael Jordans, the Wayne Gretzkys, the Golden State Warriors, Mother Teresa, Bill Clinton, like all of them. They all call on this guy. And there's a reason for it. Dive into his stuff. Immerse yourself into it. And then 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I apologize, when my partner passed away, if it wasn't for Gary Vee, I wouldn't be here today. Because he became a shield in terms of being okay with your insecurities. Because when I saw him, I was like, man, this guy's kind of like in an area like I am in Rexdale. He's swearing. He's kind of in a hoodie. Like, I'm like, okay, there's a little bit of me there. Like, you know what I mean? And, he's just saying, just like, don't try to create content as much as just document. I was like, I kind of like this style. Did a podcast with him in New York. And he said to me after, like, it was clockwork. Went into his office, did a podcast with him, and he was like, I gotta go. I'm gone. He's like, oh, by the way, if you guys want to hang around here like for a few hours, go nuts. I was like, sorry, what did you say? He's like, if you want to hang around here. I was like, ugh, inside. I look at my team, I was like, this fucking guy doesn't know it for Rexdale. I'm gonna stay here. Like, I'm staying. We stayed there for like 7 hours. Okay. Met everyone on his team. Amazing people. They gave us a bunch of tactics and strategies about taking what you guys are going to do with this podcast, clip it, make it into a blog, take an hour conversation like now and take it into like 40 pieces of content. Changed my game. I was able to come up with 10, 15 pieces of content a day. And so that was the second guy in my sales career because he made me a much better marketer. Anthony Robbins made me a better person. Like he's life stuff, relationship stuff, which obviously helps in your business. But two different guys, they're a little built differently. They speak differently. Their styles are a little different. But if anybody has a chance, you'll never see someone like Anthony Robbins. I saw him in Atlanta really quickly. He went for 14 hours straight on stage with 5,000 people in the room. I saw it in front of my eyes. And he took one pee break.
Oh.
14 hours. He had 5,000 people losing their minds. I know some people would say, it looks like a cult. Screw all that shit. I'm telling you right now, this guy's strategies, his energy, it's crazy. It's funny. I was telling my team, I wanted Kobe Bryant on my podcast. I was DMing him like crazy. He never DM'd me back. It's not like we spoke, but I'm a guy who puts things out in the world and things happen. It's Anthony Robbins who I want next on the podcast for sure because I want to see if I can match energy with him just as a game. I want to just screw around. I want to see like how far he is away from me just as a challenge. So Anthony Robbins, Gary Vee, Emma.
I love it, man. And one more before we ask you how we can help you. But you have been tremendously successful with that, putting things out and then having the Ryan Serhants, the want for the Kobe, like, those big visions. So let's say I'm a brand new agent and I'm like, I need to get in these rooms with people who are more successful than me or people who are where I want to go. Other than just saying, just reach out. What would you do? Is there a strategy that you can tell them or a tactic to be able to open that door a little quicker?
Yeah, I think, first it comes down to the mindset. You got to feel the feelings. Like, I knew I was going to get Kobe because I envisioned the room that it was going to happen in. I really visualized it. And that's not, again, foofy-fuffy philosophical stuff. Like, you look at the fastest guy of all time, Usain Bolt. He ran that race 1,000,000 times before he broke the record, right? So you really need to visualize it because that puts you on that vibration for it to happen. Reaching out, but I think that's what it really comes down to, right? Is really reaching out, but I'll give someone an insight, not necessarily a tactic. Believe it or not, if you're starting out content or you're starting out like with a podcast, for example, the bigger names, they're actually not the most watched or most listened to, especially from a real estate perspective. With the 222 episodes, my most watched and most listened to episodes, downloaded episodes, are with regular Joes and Janes. And the reason is because I think that when there's a viewer and a listener, they can relate to the regular Joe and Jane. It's hard to relate to a Ryan Serhant, a Gary Vee, or Patrick Bennett, all these guys. They're multi-billionaires. Like, I'm not going to get there. You know what I mean? I just want to know how to get my next friggin' investment property, my first condo. How do I do that, right? And so I think what I would say to people is don't feel like you have to get those big names yet, or you even have to be in the big rooms, because there's a lot of people out there that we don't know their names, but they're doing big things. You just need to start to reach out and see who your vibe is. Like your vibe will always attract your tribe, right? And so look for people that are kind of similar to the way that you want to do stuff.
Such good advice, such sage advice. I love it. The big thing that hit home for me with you was the Tony Robbins CDs when you got into real estate. Because honestly, the exact same thing, it wasn't Tony Robbins, but the exact same thing happened with me. When I got into real estate, I had never looked at, self-development. Probably my mindset was terrible. I know it was, in fact. I was 40 grand in debt, living in a crummy apartment above a restaurant, taking a shot at real estate. And same thing, I went into the office and there was 3 guys on I was on a team of like 6, MrLoft.ca. You probably remember it back in the day. So I joined the Mr. Loft team and there was 3 guys in the office that were sitting around and they handed me a stack of CDs from the Global Information Network. And a guy named Kevin Trudeau, who you probably remember.
I know that name.
Yeah, because he's the guy that wrote like books like, the secret medicine they don't want to tell you about.
Yeah.
All the late night information.
Yeah.
He's been to jail twice.
Oh, shit. I didn't know that. Oh, shit.
So he started this like network of sharing this self-improvement information. And it kind of is a pyramid scheme. They get you to buy in and you can go up in levels and they share more information with you the more money you spend. And I never invested, but they gave me the stack of CDs. It changed my life because it was all Tony Robbins. I've read and listened to Tony Robbins a ton since then, but it was all Tony Robbins type information on this stack of CDs that I remember putting into my Volkswagen Passat CD player. And totally changed my life. So I love that you shared that with people, because mindset, and Emma brought this up to me recently, I think mindset is everything in success, because mindset allows you to take big shots and mindset allows you to be okay with failing. And I think those are, from what I've heard from you today, those are the 2 biggest things that I learned is like, take more shots, take bigger shots, and learn from your failures. And I think that's something everyone needs to hear, even the most successful people, because we forget it.
I mean, you hit it, man. Like I'm 40, so I got probably a good another 60 years at this. Like, I'm just not going to worry about what someone that I don't know on TikTok says about me. Like, I really don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like, big deal. Like, I do worry about what my team thinks because they know me, right? Like, even you two, like, we're getting to know each other more. Your judgment of me, like, you don't know me, right? And so I care about what my family thinks about me, right? And so I think most people are just so worried about what other people are going to think about them that they don't want to take that shot, where I've just found the more shots that I take, the more chances I have. Like, it's quite basic for me. Just take more shots, you'll figure it out. And I think that's the Kobe kind of mentality, that whole Mamba mentality. Like, I'm just going to keep shooting. Like, you will hit at some point, especially if what you're doing is ethical and you're not ripping people off.
I love it, man. Well, you've been more than generous with your time. We really appreciate having you.
Blast with you guys. That was fun. Thank you.
What can what are you on the mission to do? Like, you've been so generous to us, to me in the past, and like, what can we do for you, or what can our audience do to help you, man?
Get this podcast out. You just get this podcast out. The right people, I'll attract, because there's going to be people who are watching and listening, and I'm okay with that. They're like, this guy's voice is annoying, and that's okay. That's okay. Maybe what Emma said.
You know, man, where do they find you?
But you know what? Maybe out of what one of you two said is what hit, right? And so that's okay. But we needed to have this conversation at this time, at this date, for that to happen. Get the podcast out. Everything else will take care of itself.
All right, where do they find you?
And thank you so much.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jas.
Take care.
Appreciate it.